Karen.
Yes.
It's been said that if we listen hard enough, we can hear our own inner guidance directing us where we were meant to be or where we're supposed to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some people call it intuition. Others may refer to it as our higher selves or even maybe God or the angels. Whatever you call it, though, it's a for sure thing that this voice is inside every one of us. It's just that some of us are more in tune with it than others. Some of us, like me, may even need some sort of spiritual hearing aids to get the messages that we're supposed to hear, right?
And some of us have more than one.
So what if I told you, though, that this spiritual hearing aid, for lack of a better word, actually exists?
Oh.
Would you be interested?
Yep.
I know I would. Well, today we're talking about how to listen to the inner voice that nudges us toward our purpose. And if you haven't yet heard that voice, this is the episode you don't want to miss.
My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
So we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something.
Anything.
That will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
This week's Listener Corner finds us hobnobbing with the wonderful Nicole Harp once again. If you recall, Nicole was our spirit communicator. She was a guest on our past episode. If you haven't heard that episode, strongly suggest you run there right now. Not only did she communicate with our dog Hunter, but she also drew Karen's soul portrait, and that was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. Anyway, she left us a wonderful 5-star review, subject of which is free-flowing. She goes on to say, Will and Karen run this podcast so professionally. I really enjoyed our time together. The interviewers made me feel like I had known them my whole life. The interaction was seamless. They both have great sense of humors and can also take you to tears in a matter of minutes. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to reach their audience. You two are the best. No, Nicole, you are the best. Thank you so much for leaving us that wonderful 5-star review. And if you are interested in hearing your review read on the air in a future episode, just feel free to go to skepticmetaphysician.com or to Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. All 3 locations will allow you to leave a review directly on there, and we'll get notified that you've left us a wonderful review. And you never know, you might just hear your words read right here on the air.
Okay, guys, it's Will. I'm sorry to interrupt here again. I know you're interested in the interview, and we're going to get to it in just a second, but something happened the other day that I got to share with you. It really helped put things into perspective in my mind, and I thought someone out there might benefit from it as well. See, a friend of mine very recently told me how things are going so poorly in her life. She's constantly having things happen to her that you could define as bad, right? She's been mixed up with men that have treated her poorly. Her family life is going through some very serious challenges. Financially, she's not doing as well as she'd like. So I asked her how much time in every day she spends focusing on that. Now, I don't pretend to be any kind of spiritual guru or wise sage or anything like that. God knows I'm not one of those. But every once in a while, if I get myself out of the way, Will gets out of the way, some words will come out of me somehow. And these words sometimes have some wisdom inside them. And when she was talking to me about what was going on in her life, suddenly that happened. Something inside me stepped out of the way, and what came through was so inspiring to me personally that I thought I should share it with you as well. I asked her how often she focused on the good versus the bad, and she said, "Oh, all the time. I think about good things all the time. I know how important it is to stay positive and focus on the good, so I make sure that I do that all the time." So then I asked her, well, how many times, how often do you focus on the bad? And she said, well, I try not to focus on the bad, but bad stuff keeps happening to me. So of course it derails my good thoughts. And I'm always starting to feel like, oh, woe is me. Like, why is this always happening to me? So then my advice, or the advice of whatever was speaking through me, came through, and they said that every morning when she got up, for just 10 minutes every day, all she had to do was just sit there and think about what she was grateful for. Now, I know we've all heard about gratitude practices and all that kind of stuff, but really, I invite you to really think about that. She said, I don't know that I can focus on things I'm grateful for when there's nothing really good going on for me right now. So then I invited her to think about her life and compare it to someone in another country, for example, who isn't sure if they're going to survive from one day to the next. Look at the people in Ukraine who are being bombed every single day, who don't know whether they'll have a house or their lives. Look at these people who are starving across the world, who barely make ends meet. Think of the homeless folks on the street that are forced to stand in a street corner asking for money. She has a house that she should be grateful for. She has a family, a loving family that she should be grateful for. She has a great job that she should be grateful for. She has wonderful health. She has food to eat anytime she wants it. She has friends here to support her anytime she needs us. She turned to me and she said, you know what? You're so right. You're so right. I don't think about those things because I'm so concerned about the bad. I'm always focused on what is not going well. But the good stuff, they're so important to think about what you actually have. And I bet that if you took a minute to think about all the things that you take for granted, I think you'd be grateful for them too. Be grateful for the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, everything around you, the birds that sing in the morning for you. The most important part is this. I told her, don't just think about it. Thinking about something good all the time just to replace something bad, that's super easy. Oh, nope, I don't want to think about how I can't pay my bills this month. Instead, I'm going to think about how wonderful my French toast is this morning. Folks, it's not the thought that makes it happen. It's the emotions. You need to feel the emotion of gratitude. It's emotions that attract things to you, good or bad. The more you feel gratitude for all the things that you really should be grateful for, the more the universe is going to decide to give you the things to be grateful about. On the flip side, the more you feel pain, sorrow, trouble, negativity, the more the universe is going to go, okay, that's what this person wants, so let's give them more of that. Because that is what they're feeling right now. We're more aligned with the vibrational aspects of emotions. So my advice, take it or leave it, is to sit in the morning for 10 minutes, it's all it takes. Focus on your heart, breathe in and out through your heart, open that heart chakra, and feel grateful. Feel grateful for all the things that you have, that you should be grateful for, that so many people in the world don't have. It's the feeling, it's the emotions that count, not just the thoughts or the words. And right now, I feel grateful that you are still here listening to these words, and I feel grateful that we have this amazing guest to share with you. So rather than keep you from that amazing content, I'm just going to step aside and introduce our guest. Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And this week's topic is about opening up to your inner guidance so that you can follow your true purpose. And God knows Karen and I are not the best people to turn to when it comes to this topic, so we've recruited the big guns. Well, one particular big gun to be exact. Colby Rebel is a certified master spiritual teacher through the Lisa Williams International School of Spiritual Development. Say that 5 times fast. A 3-time #1 best-selling author, and she was voted LA's #1 best psychic.
Wow.
Yep. She's the host of the popular podcast, The Colby Rebel Show, and she teaches and works as a professional psychic medium in LA, where she owns and operates the Colby Rebel Spirit Center. To say that we are very well accompanied would be the understatement of the year. So without further ado, I bid a very warm welcome to Colby Rebel. Colby, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, hi guys. Thank you so much for inviting me on today. It's good to meet you.
Likewise. We are excited to talk to you because I don't think we've ever had the #1 best psychic in anywhere in the show.
Wow.
So it is an absolute honor. Now, I assume, getting right into the conversation, I assume that when you talk about inner voice that's guiding us in our lives, you're probably referring to our own psychic senses, or is it something else that we have going on?
Well, we absolutely have the ability to connect to our own higher self, right? So I love that when you talked about your higher self, because that really is it. We have an all-knowing self within us, right? So we have that higher self, and then we have that ego mind, your flight or fight survival mode, right? Helps you make daily decisions. What job do you take? What relationship are you in? Constantly checking in. But when we can put that ego mind aside a little bit and really trust that higher self, that is our intuitive compass. That is our guide that always knows the right direction, yes or no, next best choices. So what I love to do is really be a conduit for someone to kind of connect to their higher self for them and what is coming through. What do they need to know? What's the next best move for them in their life at the moment?
Wow. So is it like, you hear people talk about your conscience. Is it not? Yeah, your conscience. Is it like your conscience on steroids? Because sometimes you're like, well, this probably isn't the right thing to do. But it sounds more like someone saying that's not the right thing to do.
I think it's more like your subconscious of steroids, right?
Mm.
It's the what you're not thinking about that is really the most powerful and the all knowing. So if I were to say to you, you're thinking about your next job, right? Do I take
Mhm.
this promotion? Should I do it? I'd have to leave the company. Am I going to get promoted in my current company? Your head, your ego mind is going to get so wrapped up in what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? But your higher self already knows the next best move. Your higher self knows whether or not it wants to do that or stay where it is. And how do we kind of discern that and kind of get to the bottom of what your truth is around that question?
Ooh, that can be really tricky, I imagine.
Yeah.
Especially with someone like me.
Especially. Yeah, how do you tell between the two?
Oh, how do you? So one easy way and this, I love kind of teaching intuition to people because so everybody has experienced intuition, even Will. Okay. So that's the positive side of
Uh,
things.
are you
Okay.
sure about that? I don't
I
know.
promise.
She's the
I
best. She knows.
promise you. Right. So how do we know the difference? So first and foremost, if it's your ego thought, right? Your own mind, the consciousness, the thought starts in your head and will build outwards. Should I take the job? Is it going to be right for me? Is it the next best move? Am I going to get compensated? Will there be a promotion in my current job? What if I don't do this? What if right? It continuously perpetuates the thought process. Okay. That's the ego mind. Now, the intuitive mind, it's going to be outside, kind of coming in like a flash. Take the job. Yes, it's right. Do it. Time is now. It's going to be quick, easy, but it's going to feel like it's coming outside of you and then inside in kind of a quick thought or a picture or a feeling. So that's how you know the difference. Is it me inside my head or is it an intuitive thought coming outside to me?
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Now, people like me who may not be as sensitive to these kinds of things, is there a way to discern, like, how do you start, like, baby steps to know whether it's coming in from the inside or coming from the outside?
So one thing I love to do is I love teaching what I call the compass. So do either of you know a pendulum or have you heard of a pendulum kind of thing?
Of course.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. So being kind of skeptic myself, I'm like, yeah, but is the hand moving it? Are we kind of nudging it where we want it to go? But the compass that I teach is inside you. It's your innate sense of knowing. So we like to kind of train it a bit because it is there. But if you're not used to using it or you're very analytical and mostly left brain, you may not use it as much as its potential. So I like to teach the compass. So imagine a round dial and it's right around your belly button. So it's a circle right around your belly button. And imagine a line dividing it directly in half. So it's like a compass. It's going to tilt left or right beyond this center line. Okay. A lot of times I recommend somebody putting their palm over that center point just to kind of feel that connection within yourself. Then you say to yourself a simple lie. You know this is not true, right? So something extremely simple. My name is Frank,
I'm
right?
very funny. Oh, no.
Okay.
Highly admitted
But
it.
if you
Sorry.
think you're funny, it may not work. So you
Uh,
have to you
what,
have to
what if
give
you
an absolute lie.
what if you want to be funny, but you really just can't, or you know you're
I know.
not?
That's a
That's
different
a
class,
whole
Will.
that's a whole different podcast, right?
Uh,
So, but think of an absolute lie. You know it to not be true. Either, you have XYZ kids or you're married or not married or whatever. See if you feel ever so slight nudge left, right, ever so. It's nothing going to be grandiose. Do you feel a pull to the left or to the right? Ever so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You do, Karen? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Good. Now, okay, that is going to be your no side. Okay, that's your no side. Now, we want to make sure we establish the yes side. So now I want you to say a fact, something you know to be true. And if it works, it should pull to the opposite side of that.
Wow. Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
now here's some great news. Your side will never change, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the same as someone else. So for you, what was your yes side? Your last or no, Karen, for you? Your yes
The
side was
yes
which
was
side?
my right side.
And what about for you? Well,
Same thing.
okay. Okay, got it. It's actually my right side also. But for the sake of example, it could be someone's left. That doesn't matter. But the good thing is your yes side and your no side never change. They're not going to swap over.
Mm.
So what happens is you can develop those and make those stronger. Practice it. Practice it in a grocery store. Practice it with friends. Yes, no, yes, no. And what will happen is it will innately get stronger. And then you'll start over time, you'll start to feel the pull towards something before your brain is actually even thinking about it.
Ooh.
Wow.
So it's very, very easy kind of step-by-step way to tune into your intuition.
I think I've done that before, especially like in a bar after a couple of hours. I really feel being led in one direction or another. That's kind of the same thing, right?
I didn't warn her.
For sure. For sure.
And it has begun. No. Is that kind of what people mean when they say go with your gut?
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Go with your gut is very true. It's trusting that intuition, right? And we talk about the mother's intuition, right? Mothers have an innate sense of intuition. The other saying, the eyes in the back of your head. Your mom has eyes in the back of the head. Have you heard of that one too, right?
mhm.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And that all that is intuition. That's a mother's intuition. They know when something's up. They know when something's going awry. They know when the kid is up to something or there's danger. But all of us really can tune into that. You know, Karen, I would say, and I like to use this example and not to exclude Will, maybe he can take it too. But
Womp
you know,
womp.
how many times I know as a woman going somewhere and, and something feels a little off or it feel a little like, I'm going to turn around and go back to
Yep.
where I'm going to, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
your intuition saying, hey, danger ahead, danger ahead. But we're taught as a society, you have to be polite and don't be rude to someone. And what happens is that will make you second guess and you'll get into your ego mind. But that delay, that sense of delay can create a troublesome time for you. So that's why trusting your intuition is so important. Here's one that I know you can get, Will. Absolutely. Okay.
No.
How many times are you? I'm going to water this down and make it so easy that you
Okay.
got this. Okay.
All right. All right.
All right. You're driving. Let's say you're driving to the office, you're driving to work or wherever you're going, right? There's a thought to you, I should kind of take this way today. And you go, no, I'm going to take the way I normally go. It's fine. You start to go that way and either there's some road construction, there's an accident, there's something you're like, if I had just listened, I would have just gone that way and been okay. And that's really what it is. Your intuition, even though we don't know the why yet. So the problem with intuition, okay, the reason we don't always fully trust it, because you don't have the why. You have yes, no, do this, do that. You don't know why yet. And when you know the why, so what happens is your brain is trying to go, okay, well, why do you want me to? You give me a reason. But by the time that happens, it's too late.
Right. So then it's just a matter of finding a way to trust your gut. To Karen's point, trust your gut.
Yes. And I think a great way to do that. So how do you do? Thanks, Colby. That's awesome. How do I trust it? Right.
Yes. Thanks, Colby. How do I trust it?
Yes. I think what's just as important to notice how many times after the fact you should have listened to it. You knew something and you didn't listen. And if you had listened, you would have been right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So how many times you didn't listen because there's a feeling associated with that.
Mhm.
And when you tune into that, you're going to know, I don't want to repeat that. Naturally, fight or flight, you're not going to want to repeat it. So even through the no experience, you're going to say, I'm going to trust it no matter what.
Yeah.
And you just go with it. And it's really important to go, I don't know why, but this is what I'm doing.
And I think paying attention to the no's would be more impactful, because if you turn the right way to avoid, whatever reason, you don't really know that you avoided anything. So you're not going to get
Exactly.
that like, oh, yes, you were right to go this way, unless you hear later there was an accident, unless you find out later.
So maybe this is
Yes.
the only first and only time to really push the negative reinforcement as opposed to the positive.
Well, the negative reinforcement is an absolute teaching tool, right? It is
yeah.
an absolute teaching tool. And I think that will really help us go, okay, I understand that feeling. So I'm going to have to then trust the opposite feeling.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So then maybe I should keep a notebook in my car every
You
time,
should.
because I don't pay attention as much as I should, right? So maybe just writing down, I felt like I should take a left, but I took a right, and darn it, if there wasn't, the bridge was opening up or whatever. And
Mhm.
maybe
It can
track
be
that way.
anything. Keeping a little notebook by your side is a great idea for anything you say, I should have, could have, would have, and
Mhm.
didn't. Or when you did do something and it was right. Oh, I thought to do this and it turned out this way. So I believe that will also really, really help.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
As long as the feeling is not to not write it in your notebook right now and you do anyway and you get into an accident, that would be bad.
No, right. You don't want to do it while driving.
God. You are on fire.
I know. I don't know
And
what
it's
it
a
is.
slow, bad burn, honey.
That's it.
No, but you do that a lot, Will. Like when we're driving and the traffic is really bad, and you're like, I better stay away from that one guy. And then the guy
Yeah.
swerves over and like almost hits
Right.
us.
That's
You've
a
done that
great,
before.
great point. Even right, how many times, even if they're not swerving, okay, you're coming up and just something says they're going to pull into my lane. They're just going to, and you try, and sure enough, they do, right? Or you
Mhm.
move out of the way, and sure enough, they go into the lane you thought they were going to go into. But that's a great example.
Actually, you're absolutely right. That's a great point, because I hadn't thought of it in that context before, but you're right. I do seem to have an awareness, at least a situational awareness, whatever you want to call that. That could be labeled intuition, right? That could be my inner voice.
That is intuition. Yes, it is intuition.
Hey,
yes.
look, I'm intuitive, Karen.
Yay!
Thank you, Colby. That's a
It's
big
like,
relief.
it's like the ruby red slippers. You've had them all along.
That's it. That's it.
I like
Just
to
kick
think
them
of it.
3 times.
Yeah, I like to think of it more as Dumbo's feather.
Whatever works.
All right. So then we learned how to kind of start to listen to our inner voice a little bit. And you feel that everyone, you said, you feel everyone's intuitive, everyone's
Yes.
psychic. Is that it's fair to say?
So that's going to be a little different.
Okay.
So everybody's absolutely intuitive, fight or flight. And those who may have experienced trauma in their life may be more intuitive innately, only because of the survival mechanism that's part of intuition, right?
Mhm.
So there's the way our intuition works is it's based off of survival. So if you've had traumatic upbringing or experiences, your intuition may be heightened just out of but basically because you've used it more. Okay. Not just because it's stronger, you've used it more to survive. So the more you use it, that's what I'm saying. The more you do your yes, your no, you do it. Now, remember when I said intuition, you don't know your why. You just have to trust it. Yes, no. Yes, no. It's as simple and as easy as that. The psychic is the why. So it is the intuition, but then you know the why. Meaning, I'm going to move out of the way. I just saw an accident happening, or I feel there's going to be an accident. I'm moving out of the way. At first, you're just seeing some car and something says, move, move. Okay, I'm going to move. But if you have a thought, oh, this guy's reckless, he's going to get into an accident, you move out of the way. And unfortunately, he goes off the side of the road. That's a psychic hit. That's the why.
Gotcha. Yeah, that puts it into perspective perfectly. Yep. So then, because you're a psychic medium, right? So mediums along the same lines, or is that a very specialized area?
Well, basically, so psychic, what we say with psychic is the ability to communicate with somebody's soul in the living. And really, it's just the idea that I can tune into your higher self and help you with that guidance, that clarity, I don't believe our job as a psychic is to make decisions for you. I'm really big on road A, road B, but to give you clarity, if you take each road, what does that look like for you to allow you to be empowered to trust your own decisions? Okay.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mediumship is really different. That is connecting to the soul of someone in spirit, someone who has passed away, and bringing forth that energy, that person, their characteristics, their personality, anything that they want to share, maybe a memory, that sort of thing, bringing that person, I think, back into the living, if we shall say, even for a few moments, to have that reunion with whoever the client is in front of me.
That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Mm.
reunion. Oh.
Mm.
I have so many questions that jump off of here, but I know that for sure there is something that I want to cover. It has to do with business, and I'll get into it a little bit closer. We need to take a break before we go dive into another rabbit hole. But when we come back, we're going to talk to Colby about something that Karen and I want to do, and that is to take this in the full-time direction. We're being called in a certain way, and Colby has a very definitive advice on how to create a spiritual business. And when we come back, we're going to dive into that. So stay with us.
Hey guys, wanted to let you know about another show that you should be listening to. If you like our show, we're sure you'll like this one too.
Hey, beautiful people. Are you stressed out, overwhelmed, overtired, just over it? Have you tried all the things or really want to, but you're just not sure how to get all those stress relievers into your life for real and for good? It sounds like you might need a little bit of stress therapy with me. I'm Sherry Flake, and I'm the stress therapist. I teach people how to get better at stress, stop procrastinating, and stay motivated while we work on healthy habits like meditation and happy living. Stress therapy means that you're about to benefit from all of the clients that have sat on my couch, the workshop attendees that have sat in my audience, and the participants that have come to my retreats over the past 25 years. This is not a head nod with platitudes. This is real guidance with real results in real time for real people. I'll show you what works, why it works, and most importantly, how to get it all to work for you and how to keep it up so you have new healthy habits that last a lifetime and make you the best you ever. Stress therapy means learning how to meditate every single day without stress, procrastination, or excuses. Finally, here's a way to reap all those magical benefits of meditation, making stress therapy and meditating accessible, practical, doable, and for people just like you. You deserve this. Believe me, it's time. So sit back, relax, and listen up, because here comes me, the stress therapist, and your stress therapy session is about to begin right now.
And now back to the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Welcome back to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. We are talking to Colby Rebel. She is the #1 best psychic of the entire Los Angeles metro area. She's been voted that now in 2022. So we're excited to have her here. And we've been talking a lot about how to gauge, how to listen to that inner voice inside you. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit, because longtime listeners might remember the fact that though Karen and I do have full-time jobs doing elsewhere, we are really being called more and more to serve others in this space. And as such, we would like to figure out how to leave our full-time jobs and instead do this full-time instead. Colby.
And still eat.
And well, yes, if you haven't seen us, we do like to eat. So I like to eat. You look great. Colby, you have a very specific set of guidance for people who want to open a spiritual business. So how can Karen and I get into that space?
Oh, that's such a great question, because there are so many people who do want to do this full time, but they don't know how. So first and foremost, my recommendation is don't rush it. Do not leave this podcast, go put in the pink slip, quit your job and say, yes, Spirit's going to provide. I did it. Because guess what? Yeah, it might be hard to pay the bills and the mortgage. So first and foremost, be strategic about it. And I think that's really, really important. Look at your bills. How much do you pay on a monthly basis? Divide that by, if you're going to do a session. How much are you going to charge for the session? How many sessions do you need to abundantly pay for the monthly bills? Give yourself some cushion, maybe have some emergency funds. So it may be taking that full-time job that you both have and seeing if there's a possibility to make it part-time. And then those extra hours you use to build your spiritual business. So you're doing a little bit of both for a while. And that may help kind of create that leverage, that balance. And then as you start to get enough clients to really stabilize and do it, I think that's important. But you have to be a good business person. I mean, the problem here is, as a light worker, as we like to say, worker could be anything: energy work, Reiki, psychic, medium, podcasting in the element, anything, right? And then odds are, except Will, right, who is clearly an exception, but odds are you're using the right side of your brain, okay? A business owner, you're going to use more of the left side, the logical side. So you have to know, how do taxes work? How do you put money aside for your taxes? How do you make sure that you're running a proper professional business? And what kind of entity do you want to set up? You know, it's not just opening the doors and saying, yes, come, my people. It's great if they do, but it's unlikely unless you create a marketing plan, a email plan, putting yourself out there in a very big and bold way, which is also sometimes for a light worker, it's really hard for them to feel confident coming out of the spiritual closet. They're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of what people are going to say. They're going to afraid that people won't leave them. You have to be willing to leave everything behind if it means serving your passion and purpose. And those who are willing to be with you are your people. And those who are not your people. And that could be difficult, but it's imperative to fulfilling your soul's destiny.
So there's some sort of surrender involved in this. So you have to surrender. And we talked about energetic exchanges and things like that. So if you surrender, if you are, how can I put this? I want to say pure, but if you have the right mind in going into something, if you're thinking about it for the right reasons, and you surrender to the universe, to whatever is supposed to happen, the best thing in that case will happen, as long as you're smart about it by learning how to do the taxes and the bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's important. Yeah, you really could be the most incredible psychic, medium, Reiki healer, whatever it is. You could be so amazing. But if nobody knows who you are, then it's not going to work. Or if you are so afraid of what others are going to think, you want to hide yourself, it's not going to work. So there has to be a balance of the left and right brain coming together to have a good business. You know, it could be great. You could be the best baker in the world, but if you don't bring in the best ingredients, you're not going to make the best bakery products, right? It's not going to be the best pie, the cupcake. You know, if you're not in the right location, it's not going to work. If you don't put a sign on the door saying, hey, it's a bakery here, it's not going to work. So there has to be this idea of, yes, your gifts and doing it for the right reason, of course, and not being led by ego, but being led by of service to others. Okay. But there has to be that practical side. How do I do it? How do I step out? How do I put my stuff out there? And how do you find your own uniqueness in it? Because too many times someone will try to be like someone else, and that's not going to work. If you're meant to do this, you're doing it because you were chosen for your specific reason. There's something about you, your personality, your experience, your path that is why you are specifically chosen. And I think you have to stay very authentic to that in order to be successful.
Okay. Now, do you help people to figure these things out? Is that something that you do, or you just stick to the psychic medium thing?
No, I do both. I love teaching. So I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with students. I have some group mentoring where I help them kind of push their own limits, step outside of their own comfort zone, really get to the idea, the root of who are they? What makes them unique? How do they want to be of service? Right? Because when you are starting out, right? When you are starting out, it could be that I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. But you have to really hone in on what are you truly passionate about? Because if you're going to do it 10, 20, 30 years, you better have to like it a lot to stay with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Getting back to your working with people in the psychic realm, what is the biggest block or challenge that people have as far as being able to connect and trust their intuition?
I feel like the biggest thing is people are so afraid of being wrong. And so they fail to trust it. They're so afraid of being wrong. So a lot of times with my students, what I do in a workshop, which is really fun, they're afraid to raise their hand and say something. What are you getting around this picture? What are you feeling? They're so afraid of it being wrong. So the first thing I make them do is I make them shout no out loud. No, no, no. And I'll just say, look, the floor is still beneath you. You did not get swallowed up. You're still here. It's okay to get a no. And to teach people that no is okay. Like we said, the no is as powerful as the yes.
Okay. So then this is where my left brain, right brain things get in the way, right? Because earlier on, we talked about following your intuition and feeling, the message coming from outside in, that kind of thing. What if someone's getting those messages that I need to open up this business and their heart's in the right way and the whole kind of thing, but they keep not being successful? How can you get beyond that?
So that's a great question. How can you get beyond that feeling of failure or lack of abundance, kind of when you're saying, hey, I'm going to do this? It could be a couple different things, right? It could be that they're not stepping out with the business side. Is the sign up? Is the marketing out? Are they creating the niche for themselves? Are they putting themselves out there in that way that is needed? Maybe that could be a factor. The second part could be that they feel like this is what they want to do, but is it really what they want to do? Is it really their passion, or is it what they told themselves they should be doing as the passion? So it's not fully in alignment. So I think that that's important as well. That's why even a lot with my students, what kind of readings do you want to do? Who is your ideal client? Who are you wanting to talk to? Because we cannot please everyone, but when you can hone in on that alignment, you're going to be so passionate about it. And I feel like that passion is going to go ahead and build that rhythm. The other thing why it could be kind of failing or not succeeding, because they didn't do the balance thing we talked about. Maybe they put all their eggs in one basket, said, this is going to be great. I'm going to invest everything I own. And then they start to do it and they have to make money to survive, and they're not doing it out of passion. And so, when money is of course, we have to live and pay and thrive and survive and all that, but you can't make money the motivator. It has to be the passion is the motivator. The money is because you're in the flow.
Okay. Because it's all about flows, that energy exchange that we talked about.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then you build up this business and everything is going great, and something happens and you lose the business for whatever reason. And now you're going through this massive amount of grief. We've been told, and I'm shifting gears just slightly because it just something occurred to me. We've talked about the power of our thoughts and positive thinking and things like that. So when something like that happens to you and you lose a business or something tragic happens, you drop into grief, and it's hard to think positive at that point.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who is going through that process right now?
Well, for anyone going through grief in the grieving process, I feel like it's be patient with yourself because there's no specific timeline on grief. But the second thing, especially if it's around a business perspective in that, it's also trusting the universe, which can be really, really difficult, right? If you're grieving and you're upset that you lost something that you really loved or put your heart and soul into and it didn't work out, I mean, it really could be that the universe is trying to redirect you. And I would say, moreover, there was one or two indicators about the business, right? But we ignore it because we didn't want to look at it. We don't want to face it. And then finally, the universe is like, all right, I got to come in and do this and move it out of your way so that there is no choice but to move beyond that business, to move into something else, or what's the next step. Obviously, tragedy hits every day to many, many people, which is so unfortunate. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of go, well, what's my why in that? But I think the biggest thing is to really surrender and say, okay, what can I learn from that experience? And how can I help it to build me into the next experience? And moreover, finding that things tend to work out for the highest good. And it's trusting that, even though you don't see it in that moment.
So back to surrender.
Yeah, and that can be
That's a
so
surrender.
hard.
Yeah.
It's the worst, isn't it?
Oh
I
my
know for me,
gosh.
when I was, I'll tell you something really quick. When I was still a tax manager, so I was a tax manager like 14 years, right? And, you're looking at 6 figures, PTL, you've got your benefits, it was great. And I'm pretty sure I would have been able to be partner of that firm at some point, right? Because I pretty much was running it. And then that feeling like, oh, I don't think you're doing what you're meant to do. And you just kind of want to shut that little feeling up. Don't you just get out of my way. Let me make my 6 figures and let me just keep moving along. But it's like, and I fought it so crazy. But there is such crazy, crazy things that Spirit was like, there was no denying I was not supposed to continue doing that.
Hmm.
And I was creating such stress on myself because I was not surrendering. I had studied hard, worked hard, taken the CPA exam. I had some fight in me. And finally, I just one day said, all right, Spirit, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop fighting. I'm going to stop fighting you. I'm going to stop fighting myself. I'm going to give this everything I've got. And if it comes to a point where you don't want me doing it anymore, you pull me out. I'm going to stop pulling myself out. And it literally was at that moment that things really started to improve. And, I wasn't doing it full time, right? I did the balance thing that took 2 more years, but it got to a point where it was progressing and I was doing well. And, I have the really, honestly, I hate to say it, but such an incredible, amazing life of freedom and balance and helping others. And who would have thought that I could have had this and this level of abundance and success when I was so stuck in it had to be tax accounting? But that's a belief system we hold on to, right?
So how did you know that you were psychic? Like, when did you realize that, oh my gosh, this is the thing and I'm really good at it?
Well, I've been doing it my whole life. But I've been doing it so naturally, I wasn't really aware. So the mediumship, the psychic, I was just always doing it and saying things all the time. And then as I started to go, hey, I think I'm supposed to be doing something different. What does that look like? And it's not really like, what do you do for free? Because that's not going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what do I naturally do? What was I naturally doing for people or for myself? What was naturally around me that I was doing without consequence? And I realized it was absolutely guiding people, talking to people, kind of knowing things. Even from tax returns, I'd say, that number feels a little off. Are you sure you can prove it? Because it feels like an audit, it was already coming in without me even acknowledging it was coming in, or knowing that someone had passed away and then finding out. So I was like, well, what is that? What does someone do? Counseling? No. And I was like, oh, wait a second. When you know something about something, that's break it. And I was like, oh God, no, I cannot know. Honestly, well, you would be proud of me, because I thought, oh, I cannot go and do this with my life. Are you kidding? But that's genuinely what it was. And it is what I do. And I own what I do. And, I am fortunate enough to really be able to help people and tune in and see things. And for me, it seems so obvious and really easy and common sense. Like, it seems like, that's nothing. But when someone doesn't have that clarity, and when they're at such a crossroads, and you say something that you think is so simple and easy, and it's something they never even thought of, it didn't even cross their mind until you say it, then you have to realize, there is something special about this, and we have to trust that.
Well, you bring up a good point that it just occurred to me. A lot of times we block ourselves from the right thing to do I'm wondering, this is hot off the press. First time I ever thought about it. Wonder if being a psychic, maybe what you're helping to do is reach across that obstacle and bringing it out of someone's mind and putting it out there. Something that's obscure to us. Maybe it's,
Yeah.
it's obvious to you, but it's not obvious to us.
Mhm.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is my goal is to leapfrog over your ego and connect directly to your higher self. And when we kind of get that connection and I reconnect your soul to your higher self, it's like, that communication is back on track.
Hmm.
And it could have that aha moment. It
No-
literally could be that aha moment.
But it's through you, right? It's not like that you made the connection and now suddenly I've got it. It's like the message is coming through you, or do you do kind of a type of healing that you remove blockages?
Well,
from people?
when I do a session, when I do a session, yes, I'm guiding and talking to the higher self, but simultaneously, I'm also kind of working energetically to maybe help release something or to help them get through something or to help empower them to feel more confident and strong. So there is this underlying current that happens. I mean, I can't tell you how many times at the end of a session, someone says, "Hey, I just feel better." I was like, "Okay, great." Or you've given me something to think about. That's great. That's what we want. Or, to realize something they want isn't as scary as they thought it would be. The idea of someone starting over is so frightening, isn't it? Starting
Oh, yeah.
over. What if you fail? What if you're not good at it? Or what if, you're in a average relationship that you're not super happy and you feel like you should leave, but yet you're too afraid because what if it's the best you've got? What if? Or your job, the
Mhm.
same thing. And so many people are so stuck in, well, what if this is the best it's going to be?
Mm.
And so I love helping them see, well, this is what else is there for you if you choose it.
Gotcha.
That's great.
Yeah.
Are there different levels of intuition or psychicness? I'll explain. Sometimes you hear people say, I got this overwhelming feeling that I had to turn left instead of right. But then we were talking earlier about like that little nuance,
Yes.
that little feeling. So are there, and why, if there is, why would there be? Why would something be so obvious for sometimes and not in others?
Well, I think one thing it could be obvious for others, not for others. It could be how much are you practicing or using it, right? Because it absolutely is a tool. It's a muscle that can absolutely get stronger the more you use it and the more you trust it. Secondly, I think it's like anything. If we look at basketball players, right? You've got your Michael Jordans and then you've got your kids who play and never play in college or never play pro. So I think that there also is just that natural gift ability. Does everybody have a natural gift? Absolutely. Some is just going to be more powerful or stronger or more innate or more natural, more trusting, whatever it is. So that's going to heighten that gift, strengthen that gift as well. So I think it's just
Okay. But
various
even,
set of circumstances.
what about
Mhm.
inside of the same person? Sometimes they get a really strong sense of intuition. Other ones, sometimes it's just very, very subtle. Why would that
Right.
happen?
I think a lot of times when it's very, very strong, it's probably more of the survival, fight or flight, like something urgent. And so your desire to survive kicks in, and that's where it could be quick and strong and powerful and overwhelming sense.
Okay. So, like, you are walking down the street in the middle of the night sometime, and all of a sudden you feel like, I need to not walk down this alley right now because
Yes.
there's danger. But could it not be like I'm a coward and don't want to walk down the alley? So, I mean, and again, I'm getting this overwhelming feeling. Again, I guess it's a matter of discerning whether it's coming from inside or from outside.
That's right. If you're in your head saying, I'm worried, I'm worried, I'm worried, that's one
Mm.
thing. But if in the belly, over the belly button, if there's something saying, move, get out of the way, don't stay here, don't walk here, that's really what you want to listen to.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes. Yes.
Huh. It's just a matter of then practicing, right? And feeling the subtle changes in your words coming from inside or outside. And that's the hard part for me.
And the
It
trust.
is. But
Yeah.
you two could really practice together. So anybody out there, especially to find a partner, the thing is make your question very, very simple, not a compound question. It can't be, am I getting a new job in 6 months? Am I getting a new job? Yes, no. Is it in 6 months? Yes, no. Keep
Gotcha.
it very because otherwise you'll confuse your compass until you become stronger at it. Okay. But keep it very and practice with people.
I love this because so many times we interview people and they tell us their experience and what they've done, but you're actually giving us tips, and that is awesome. I love that. I know our audience is going to love that. So thank you for that. That is fantastic.
We are Colby Rebel fans.
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So one final question for you before we open the floor a little bit. Something I've got to ask everybody that I meet because I'm really curious. What happens when we die?
So I love that question, and I'm only going to give you my take on it. And it's my true feeling, right? I'm not a big fan of someone saying this is exactly how it is and exactly how it goes down because, unless you've been there, done it, and remember it and come back, who is to say? It's all kind of theory based. In my understanding and my feeling and my connection, I feel that the physical body is what keeps us in the physical realm. Okay. The physical body then ceases, but the soul is inside the physical body. That soul is released, but that soul is still living. So I feel like the souls are kind of all around us. They might be in a higher vibration and a higher realm, kind of this floating idea because physical body is not there to weigh them down into the physical realm. But I do believe our souls are around us in the feeling and we can connect. I feel like, we may miss a loved one, but I feel like that soul is very much there. And I also feel that soul is the higher self, the all-knowing soul that's been there. So they lose the pain, the disappointment, the sadness, anything like that. All those feelings are the earth plane feelings, and those dissolve, and we're left with optimism and love and light, that upper lifting soul. And I think our soul does evolve and grow. I feel like, okay, now I'm back in soul school. Let me come back. And you do another repeat. You come back into the physical. And what are the lessons I've learned here? And what do I do here? So that's kind of what I feel like happens.
I read the Upanishads. I'm reading them right now. It's an ancient Hindu scripture, for lack of a better word, right? Hand in hand with Bhagavad Gita. And one of them was talking about this morning. It just so happens that I read it. Was talking about when the person that awakens during this life then has freedom in the next. So that brought up a question in my mind that I stated earlier on. There's a lot of question marks about whether or not we're stuck in a cycle of an endless cycle of reincarnation. Some people here, they say that you have a choice when you get out into the other world to decide whether you come back or not. Other people say that there is no choice. So I'm wondering if this puts into perspective, and I'm curious what you think about it. Maybe those who don't awaken this time around might be stuck in that cycle of reincarnation. But if we awaken, the process of awakening actually gives us that freedom on the other side to make a determination whether or not to come back or not. What do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of like school. So if you don't do well in this physical life and you really didn't learn or awaken, you got to repeat the grade, right? So you got to come back and repeat it. Okay. But if you did really well, you learned and you grew, then I believe in the soul that you get to graduate, and then you get to graduate and get to graduate. And at some point, yeah, you'll get to the idea of like highest level of awakening. And that may be a godly, that may be, right? That may just be that full on, like Mother Teresa, right? That full on awakening that, yeah, you know what? I'm good. Tap out. But I do think it's like a growth that we go to.
Okay. So you think at some point it might be a choice that we make, not a force.
Yeah. At some point I feel like you graduate, you come back in, maybe it's something different. What did I didn't learn? What did I take? Where do I still have resistance? Or what's the next level? What's the next set of lessons? But yeah, ultimately I feel like at some point we get it done, and you don't have to come back if you don't want to.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Colby, this has been wonderful. I know that you have a website that I would invite everyone to go see. You are a master spiritual teacher. So if there are people right now listening to this and you are looking for some help, the type of help that Colby can give you, if you connected with her message today, it resonated with you, and you want to reach out to her, all you need to do is go to skepticmetaphysician.com. We'll put all her links directly in our show notes so you can connect with her on your own, whether it's by social media or by the website. We invite you definitely to go there and say hi to her for us. Colby, is there anything else that you are being called to share with our audience before we close?
Just thank you guys so much for having me on today. And if there's anything I would encourage your listeners, take chances, make bold choices in your life. Don't live in fear. Fear, I believe, is the number one thing that absolutely prevents us from living our soul's purpose. So move past the fear and step into your ultimate self. And I don't think you're ever going to regret that.
Wow. Yeah, you bring to mind my new favorite saying, which is growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone. So
that's right.
Perfect.
Yeah, most definitely.
Perfect way to close it.
I love it.
Colby, thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. This has been wonderful. And I invite everyone, once again, to connect with Colby because she's fantastic and can't thank you enough for coming on.
And we will
Thank
be
you
using
guys
our
so much.
stomach compasses.
Yes, we're
That's right.
definitely going to be using our stomach compasses.
Please use them. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. And a huge thank you to you. Yes, you, the person that hit play on this episode. We know that there are tons of options out there, and having you decide to come along on our journey of discovery with us is an absolute honor for us. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have. If you did and you feel called to give back, we invite you to visit our website at skepticmetaphysician.com, where you can donate to the show or subscribe as a member through our Buy Me a Coffee campaign. Your support will go a long way towards allowing Karen and I to bring you these wonderful conversations and teachings in more and more robust ways. Of course, if contributing to the show content is what you're looking for instead, well, we'd love for you to contribute by sending us a voicemail or an email from our website, or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcasting platform that supports them. Karen and I love hearing from those that are moved to message us. It truly does fuel our passion. You are the reason we do this show, and knowing what you like and don't like help us craft the very best show we can so that we can help raise the vibration of the planet together. Now, if you know someone who would benefit from hearing the message we're sharing on the show, do them and us a favor and share the show with them. It will help get the word out about us, and it might just change someone's life for the better. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysician. Until then, take care.